So this morning, golly, I'm speaking on grief and peace and the holidays, and I feel like I'm speaking from a new me that I've never quite been before, a transformed me that's gone through such a transformation in the last 5.5 months. So much growth. Pema Chodron once said that life is a good teacher and a good friend. Life is a good teacher and a good friend. And I just have been feeling into that and feeling the kindness and the promise in that life is a good teacher and a friend. There's so many names. We have infinite names for the mystery, don't we? For the great mystery. Sometimes I like to ask people what name they relate to most. Can you tell me? I'd like to hear a few names you relate to most. Love. Yes. Who said that? Yes, love. Yes. Creator. Allah. Yes. God and Jesus. Yes. Source. Source. Mother. Yes. Life. Yes. Anything else? Great Spirit. Native American. Mother, Father, God. Yes. The mystery, the great mystery. Buddha nature. Yeah. So many names for it. I do sometimes feel like one of the best words is life with a capital L, because it just takes out a lot of the dogma, doesn't it? It's like life that creates life itself. It's the life that is eternal, that brings all life into being and welcomes all life back into itself. And it's the life that is love. And I feel like it's this great love that is life that brings everything into being out of love, out of itself. And so I find it easier to think of love that life is as that good friend and as that good teacher. Because, you know, a good friend, a really good friend loves you unconditionally, right? And a really good teacher, they are always rooting for you to discover your own innate intelligence, right? They're always rooting for you to find your own inner talent and your inner strength and your inner courage. And they're always wanting you to discover the greater light of your own being. I think about my favorite teachers, my music teachers. I love that you're a music teacher, Heather, because my music teachers were so important to me. They were my first gurus. Miss Julie in kindergarten. I remember their names. Mrs. Deerdorf in 4th grade. She was really important. So the love that life is, I believe, wants us to learn to give ourselves a lot of tenderness, just like your poems so beautifully said, to give ourselves a lot of love and become really good at taking good care of our precious human hearts. And to weep when we need to weep. You know, feeling you all today, I don't know about you, but me, I'm just trying to hold it together so that I can speak. But I could really weep, and we're having a grief support group after service where I am going to let it flow like a river that's flowing to the sea. But you know, I was thinking last week, we had Alice DiMaselli with us, which was so special, and we're going to do a concert together in the early part of next year. So that's coming up that we're going to promote and produce here. But she sang that song, "Give Yourself to Love." And I was thinking to myself, you know, we could really turn that around and sing it, "Give love to yourself," right? Let's try it. Give love to yourself. Well, that doesn't quite rhyme as well, does it? It doesn't. But the point that I'm making is we can't leave ourselves out of it. And sometimes it's just so strange how we seem to do that. We leave ourselves out of the equation of giving out love. So part of giving love to ourselves is honoring all that we feel, all that we feel. We humans have these huge hearts that can feel so much, and especially the difficult feelings. You know, we tend to want to Thich Nhat Hanh always talked about how we want to lock the difficult feelings in the basement. and the guilt or the shame or the sadness or the grief or the fear, the anger, whatever, and that we need to take those. They're like little children. They're abandoned, and we need to bring them out of the basement into the living room where there's all this light and love them and take care of them. And in that way, they are self-liberated. They can be embraced, and that's when they can be self-liberated. So today would have been my mom's 89th birthday. Am I standing out of the picture? Yeah, Will's not used to moving the camera yet. Okay, I'll stay right here. Mom, last year we celebrated her birthday at Lithia Springs. We had the best time. It was so special. But it is the first birthday since I was born that she's not here, and we're not able to celebrate her in form. And it's not easy for me or my brothers today, but I felt that a great way to honor her life on this day was to give this talk and also have this grief support group, so that anybody that's grieving, we can all share together, we can all support each other, and we can honor all of our loved ones. The important people in our lives that have crossed over to the other side. Everyone is welcome to our grief support group. I want to mention that Kate is also going to lead one online, which is awesome. She's a hypnotherapist, and she has done a lot of grief support groups, so that's available too, which is really a blessing. Thank you, Kate. Yeah. So the emotional complexity of being human. Have you noticed you can feel joy and sadness all in one day or 1 hour? Did you feel it in the service so far? That's why I put swing low in there. So it wasn't, so we had some fun and joyfulness too. But that's really part of our work in spiritually awakening is growing emotional intelligence. And growing that means we are mindful and we allow all that we feel. Mindfulness means you're just aware of how you're feeling. You're always aware of how you're feeling, and allowing it. That's the beginning of taking care of it, right? Okay, so I want to step over here. You want to try moving that camera, Will? Oh, you did it. Nice job. You're becoming a pro. I was in the grocery store. I have all these grocery store songs or stories. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, I was in the grocery store, and I was shopping, and then these Christmas carols were playing, and being the musician I am, my mind just goes to music if I hear it. So the song that was playing is "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year," right? Bing Crosby or Frank Sinatra or something. And then the very next song, "It's coming on Christmas. They're cutting down the trees. They're putting up reindeer and singing songs of joy and peace. Oh, I wish I had a river I could skate away on." Anybody know that song? Joni Mitchell, that beautiful melancholy song. And I thought to myself, that is my talk. Those two songs in a medley, And I just thought it just so perfectly expresses the dichotomy of the human experience. It's so wonderful, and I want to skate on out of here, right? This complexity of human experience, this life in a human body, it asks us to be willing to taste both the bitter and the sweet, right? And to experience the beautiful and the painful, and sometimes all in 1 hour or 10 minutes, right? And though we tend to want to run, we want to skate away from whatever's painful, Pema Chodron suggests that we do the opposite, that we move towards painful situations and become intimate with them. I love that word, intimate, intimacy, into me see. Sometimes we have to see into our own self, right? Because, these situations can open our heart in ways we never could have imagined. And that is the truth right there. One of the ways the teachings in unity and new thought, and positive thinking, one of the ways I feel like they get off track is I think they can get attached to only positive feelings, right? Only positive thoughts, only positive, 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 to the point that we are doing spiritual bypass of what's real, what's authentic, right? Gary Zukoff. We've been emailing and I'm trying to get him here. He's an old friend. I know. He loves to talk about authenticity and authentic power. So hopefully we'll get him. So, Tara Brach, another Buddhist teacher, says the boundary to what we can accept is the boundary to our freedom. The boundary to what we can accept is the boundary to our freedom. And so it is wonderful if we're filled with joy. I hugely encourage that. That is really one of my factory settings. Joy and optimism. That's really me. But I want to also say that what is welcome here is if it is the most difficult time of the year. Laughing and crying are equally healing. And so I would offer, as your poem so beautifully also said and our song said, to give ourselves this tenderness, and give each other this tenderness when it's challenging. Maybe we've recently lost a loved one. Maybe we're dealing with mental or physical illness, health challenges. Maybe we're struggling with what's going on in the world. I know that isn't easy. Sometimes the news is so challenging, we do have to mitigate it with some good news, right? There are actually good news channels and places to find good news. I read a funny story. Okay, I'm moving well. I read a funny story about this doctor he had a patient who was very, very sick, and he decided to tell the truth to the patient. And he said, if you want to know the truth, I don't think you're very long of this world, and you're very, very sick. Now, is there anyone that you would like to see? And the man's laying there, and he barely says with a whisper, yes. And the doctor says, who? And he goes, another doctor. It reminds me of my dad. So my dad, he passed in 2009, and he was in a coma. I flew from California to Pennsylvania and met my big brother there, and we were there in his hospital room, and his best friend came, Dave Connors, and we're all standing around Dad's bed. Of course, Dad's in coma, his eyes are closed. And Dad's friend, Dave, is so funny. He was always a jokester. So he made some joke, and we're all laughing, like we're really laughing. And Dad opens his eyes. His eyes just burst up, and he cannot resist it, right? Okay, I'm going to come back for one more joke. And I got right in front of him. I'm like, Dad, hi, how you doing? And Dad goes, oh, and he smiles, I'm all right. He's hooked up to all these, machines, and those were his last words. Isn't that great? See, I get to tell this story over and over. I love it. I love it. So Dad passed a few days later. We thought he was going to pass on Easter, but no, he waited 2 more days till April 15th because he was an accountant his entire life. Oh, so yeah, just even in that story, it's like there's this sweetness and there's humor and there's sadness. It's all wrapped up in one. So there really is this dichotomy of beauty and pain and humor and heartache. And I have this theory that the humor is the God part of us that absolutely knows not to take this all completely seriously. Do you get that sense? Why do we have humor in this world? It's an interesting phenomena, this humor. It's like there's a part of us that knows there's a greater reality. and that there's an immortality, a being that something in us remembers, and it can laugh. It can laugh even when everything's hard. And we were just crying a couple minutes ago, right? So to allow all our feelings and hold them with compassion and marvel at all the places we can land on the spectrum between beautiful and painful, right? That's quite a spectrum. When we do just, we do allow all those feelings, it's like we are saying yes to life. We're saying yes to life as the great teacher, as the mystery, as this thing that will evolve us if we let it. That poem that Kate read us on our first Sunday from Rumi is such a perfect poem to go with everything we've been sharing today that I'll just share a little bit. Um, this being human is a guest house. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Entertain them all. Entertain those unwanted guests. How do we do that? How do you entertain? Well, you give them a drink and invite them to sit down and you spend time with them and get to know them, right? And you open your heart to them, right? Now, I would say that, sometimes, accepting whatever it is in the moment is really hard, right? Sometimes we are asked to bear the unbearable. Um, and for me, when Mom died unexpectedly on June 23rd, and it was a difficult death, I felt for the first time in my life that I was faced with bearing the unbearable. Definitely. Okay, here's the part where I'm going to try not to cry. Because the loss was just so immense, and my heart felt utterly broken. But because I trust life as a good friend and teacher, I let myself be utterly broken open. I just let it happen. I knew to not resist. And I jumped into this consuming fire of grief and loss. And in the process, who I was kind of got annihilated, and who I am now. I actually love that I started this unity after 3 months off. I had done 6 years of ministry nonstop, and I had this 3-month break, and I had planned it before Mom died, and so it was just so perfect to go so deep into the grief and have the time to do that, and have it, let it change me. Carl Jung said, "Embrace your grief, for there your soul will grow." And Joanna Macy said, "The heart that breaks open can contain the whole universe." Ooh, wow. Yeah. So the experience, brought the deepest grief that I've ever known, but it also brought this profound yearning to explore the mystery of the greater reality beyond death, behind death, and that catapulted me into some deeper spiritual growth than I think ever. It's been a huge period of growth. I'm still in it. And I actually feel like what a blessing that I get to come to you having gone through this fire. And now I'm in the process of the phoenix rising out of those ashes, Pema Khandro Rinpoche wrote, "In bereavement, we come to appreciate at the deepest, most felt level exactly what it means to die while we're still alive." That is how it felt. And any of you that have been in deep grief, I think you understand. It's like you're in between worlds if you really go with them, and if you're connecting with them, you're hovering in this in-between state. And the Tibetans have a name for it. They call it the bardo. And they talk about the bardo as the intermediate stage between death and rebirth, but that it doesn't just refer to afterlife. It refers to any time in your life when your life is turned upside down, when the rug is just completely pulled out from under you. And, it's this continuity of our life that gets interrupted, right? Do you know what I mean? Have you had a moment like that? Unless you're really young, I bet you've had moments. Yeah, think of a time in your life when you felt turned upside down and you questioned everything about how you were living and about life, what life even means anymore. That's where it took me. And it's just incredibly auspicious, a moment like that, because it's like we've lost our old reality and it's no longer available. And so now what, right? For me, I had no ground under me when that one day I could call mom, and then the next day I couldn't call her, and I went to call her, and it was like a death for me, and then a rebirth. It's been a rebirth. So these big moments can turn us, towards deeper spirituality, because the world of reasoning and thinking is just not going to do, is it? There's some longing in the heart, and there's that need to know the mystery of death and life and eternity that it's pressing. We know we've got to explore it beyond the mind. It's timeless. It's eternal. It's transcendent. The Buddhist saint Milarepa sang a song about this, and the words go, "The precious pot containing my riches becomes my teacher in the moment it breaks." The precious pot containing my riches becomes my teacher in the moment it breaks. What is that? What is that a metaphor for? Loss as teacher, right? Loss as teacher. And it might be a breakup, or losing a job, or dream didn't materialize, or a serious diagnosis, or the death of a loved one. So if we have spiritual support, it's so important to have that. That's really why I'm standing right here. It's for you and it's for me. We grow together as one. We need wise teachers in critical moments in our life. And that's the Dharma. That's the teachings, all your teachers that have ever blessed you, and also all the teachings that ever blessed you, really come in handy when you are faced with a place you've never been, right? So, that's, the shattered pot of our life experience can turn us towards the greater territory of our own consciousness. I love that line that I wrote. That greater territory of our own consciousness. And, I'm so grateful for the solid ground and all the teachers in my life, because I have called forth, I have needed that strong foundation to go as deep as I have been going, to really explore the reality of world beyond form, but fully be in form doing so, the Buddha always talked about have a beginner's mind. And to me, that means be open and be teachable, and kind of let go of all the stuff you've read and all the stuff you've heard and all the stuff you repeat that someone else said, and discover for yourself, what is your soul giving you? What knowledge, what wisdom, what beauty, what light? Jesus said a similar thing. He said, unless you change your old and limited ways of thinking and be open like a child, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. That kingdom of heaven, what is that? To me, that's the greater reality. Be like a child, be open, be teachable, be interested, be curious, right? I know that mom lives on. I know that she exists. I know it. And more so than even existing, I know she sees me. It's funny, last night, I wasn't going to tell you this, but so I did a tarot reading because mom was really into tarot, and I have never really been that into it. I've tried to say, yeah, mom, that's cool, but I have her old tarot cards. They're so old. And I did this reading last night, and oh my goodness, when I looked up each card and I wrote it all out, I went, oh my God, that is exactly how mom would say it. I mean, that is exactly what she would say. It was so her. So I really felt like, well, mom, you don't just exist, you see me. You're just, like I'm singing, you're right here. So, yeah, it's mind-boggling to contemplate. But I feel like what Jesus and Buddha were saying is have your mind boggled, have it opened up and shaken out so you might receive wisdom beyond what you've discovered, and you might be more open-minded. Because that's what I've realized. There's ways I wish I would have been more open-minded with mom. She had wished that. and now I really get it. I get it, mom. So Pema Khandro Rinpoche wrote, what makes death and impermanence so painful is our idea of the strict dichotomy between existence and non-existence. See, that really makes sense. We just really think you're here or you're not. But that is through my exploration with Mom, I am certain that she is in existence and she's consciousness that is, and that she's energy that is. I mean, Einstein, our most famous scientist, said that energy cannot be destroyed, right? So I just keep repeating that. It changes form. It changes form. And Thich Nhat Hanh says it another beautiful way. He says, when conditions are sufficient, we manifest. When conditions are no longer sufficient, we no longer manifest. It does not mean that we do not exist. Like radio waves, without a radio, we do not manifest. So he's saying, the radio waves are there. The radio, if it's there, yeah, it picks them up. But the radio wave still exists. So we can think of ourselves as consciousness or frequency and energy that exists, whether it's in a form or not. Does that make sense? Now, of course, we miss the form we loved. Oh my goodness. I cried pretty much all day yesterday. We miss the form we loved with our whole being. There's nothing like it, that precious form. But I find it comforting to think of consciousness existing just as much without the body, just in a different way. The mystery of what form or formless consciousness Mom is inhabiting now, that I don't know. I'll find out when I cross over the Rainbow Bridge, right? But the last thing I want to mention, I love Sri Aurobindo, and Sri Aurobindo writes so much about how that we're becoming conscious collaborators with our own evolution. I mentioned Barbara Marx Hubbard. She said that too, that we're evolving into universal humans, and our vibration quickens as we consciously evolve. And we actually create bodies more able to hold lightness and beauty and luminosity. Aurobindo wrote that our bodies of the future are a vessel of supreme beauty and bliss, carrying in them the beatitude of the spirit. I love to think of that. It's a beautiful thought to think that we're evolving into these more evolved bodies that hold much more light, and what a change on the planet it will be when we all do that en masse. So in closing, I really wanted to inspire a feeling of curiosity today, I guess, in part about this journey, and that maybe, just maybe, death is a doorway, just like birth is a doorway. Like it's this revolving door. It's this revolving door, and we're playing hide and seek. We're playing hide and seek, and for a little while, and that's enabling us to grow towards a greater future human. And we will meet our loved ones again. Yeah. So in this holy season of love, let us be tender with our human hearts, and let us offer one another loving kindness and support and compassion and comfort. I just pray that each one of you is at peace, and that your loved ones are at peace, your family is at peace, and that our whole planet, that everyone can be at peace, can choose peace, can awaken to their greater light and create a heaven on earth. Thank you all. Namaste. Oh, I got through it.